Hello everyone, welcome along to the Billy Slater Podcast. We do it, of course, thanks to Ram Trucks. Gee, plenty of controversy over the course of the weekend and some appalling attacks on the referees. Adam Reynolds and Ryan Papenhuyzen added to the list of injuries at the moment. South Sydney begin talks for the Supercoach Wayne Bennett to head back to Redfern, and Luke Keary announces he'll be retiring from the game at the end of the season. All that and plenty more coming up over the next 40 minutes with the great man Billy Slater, and he joins us from Melbourne right now. Hello, Billy.
G'day, Levy. Did you stay dry at Shark Park yesterday?
There was a Sharknado down there on the weekend.
It was in the morning. It dried up pretty good.
They did a great job. Well, here's a story for you. Dino Mezzatesta, the boss of the Sharks, actually went down to Bunnings and he went and got hoses and all that sort of thing. So even little Dino, I said, mate, there's not much of you. You'll drown if you get down in some of those puddles.
Whatever it takes. CEO going down to Bunnings. How good's that?
Mate, it's a credit to everyone involved. It's a shame the game, the derby, didn't live up to probably what we were hoping for, but I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit later on in the podcast. Billy, I thought we'd start with South Sydney. That's been the big news over the last week. Jason Demetriou, I think, has handled himself remarkably well. No one likes seeing people lose their job. But this week, all of the talk becomes Wayne Bennett potentially heading back to the Rabbitohs. What have you made of the whole situation at South Sydney over the last week?
Well, we spoke last week before the decision was made to let go of Jason Demetriou, and we spoke about change. And when you're in a hole like this, and the club haven't performed for 12 months, there needs to be some sort of change. And whether that's personnel change in the coaching staff, whether that's player change, or whether that's actions changed. And the powers to be at Redfern have decided that it's time to go for Jason Demetriou and get a fresh start with a new coach. Obviously, the interim coach will be Ben Hornby in the meantime, whether that's for the rest of the year or whether that's until the new coach is appointed. All the talk is Wayne Bennett, isn't it? It's been from both parties. Obviously, South Sydney are really interested in getting Wayne Bennett. I think that he is their priority and their number one choice. Wayne is vacant of a position next year. Obviously, he's moving on from the Dolphins. I think he's done a great job. The Dolphins are in their second year into the competition. They've got Flegler, Gilbert, Kafusi only just come back from injury, Herbie Farnworth, Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow on the sideline, and they're sitting in fourth position. That's an incredible feat. And at the age of 74 years old, Wayne Bennett is still got that something about the coaching, the something about bringing people together, bringing players together. So you can see why he is so sought after, and South Sydney want their man.
Now that you're dipping your toe in the water with coaching, Billy, I'd love to know what you think about this comment. I've watched the game for a long time, and obviously Wayne's a great coach. But talking to players like Jamie Soward, who talks about Wayne becoming a father figure for him, he's a great manager of men. And is that what you become as an NRL coach? You're not only coaching a football team, but you're becoming that manager of men in the NRL.
Yeah, well, as a coach, your job is to help your players be at their best for that 80 minutes. And for your players to be at their best, it takes more than footy. It actually doesn't even start with footy. It starts with the person. It starts with why they're there, why are the group playing, what's the motivation for the group. And I've never been coached by Wayne, but I've had a little bit to do with him, especially over the last couple of years. And every time you talk to him, you walk away feeling confident in yourself. And that's what he brings. He brings that confidence. You saw him in the change rooms after that Dolphins win up there in Townsville on the weekend. And he had the group together. They were laughing. They were enjoying each other's company. There were no mobile phones in their hands. And that's what he brings. He was dancing and clapping, and that's exactly what South Sydney need at the moment. He puts good people around him that help with the ball stuff. I think Christian Wolf has done an amazing job, and he's ready to take over as head coach next year for the Dolphins. But he's just got this ability, and he loves the game. He's dedicated his life to the game, and he wants to be in the game. So the game's a better place for Wayne Bennett being involved in our game.
So if you're the South Sydney Rabbitohs at the moment, Billy, are you just throwing the kitchen sink at Wayne to get him to the club? Do they need that experienced manager type type coach to take charge of the club, given the position they find themselves in?
Yeah, and I think the success that he had there earlier as well, he left the club in a really good position. So, he's obviously got a rapport with a lot of the players, and, he's got the best out of a lot of those players in the past as well. So, yeah, the thing that you need to ask yourself is this man the right person for our club? And I think he is. And Wayne has commented that he's been very vocal that he's interested in the position. So, I'm sure they'll sit down, and if that's the case, they'll get something done.
One more on South Sydney. Latrell Mitchell's back this weekend from his suspension. He sat back. He's been in the coach's box watching this all unfold over recent weeks. And being the player that he is, you think he'll be primed for a big game this weekend in his return to the NRL?
Yeah, just go and play footy. Like that's what he does best. He enjoys that. He's a footy player, and I'm sure he's looking forward to getting out there and having a bit of fun. Smile, go and enjoy yourself, go and play some footy. And he's been frustrated just before he got suspended. You could see that in some of his actions out on the field, and I'm sure Latrell's just looking forward to getting back and competing and playing some footy. So his team's been in a hole, and he hasn't been playing his best football. But I think the game's better when Latrell's back and enjoying himself and playing well. So, I'm sure Latrell and the rugby league community are looking forward to watching him as well.
Gee, Michael Chammas said a cat amongst the pigeons at halftime in the footy yesterday when he was talking to Danica about this big story involving the pursuit of David Fifita. We know he's contracted to the Gold Coast Titans. The Panthers are pretty keen on getting him to the Mountains. That's a scary proposition. David Fifita joining that premiership winning side.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because you look at the players that they've lost over the last couple of years, the Panthers, Viliami Kikau, Matt Burton, Stephen Crichton. They're going to lose Sunia Taruva and Jerome Luai over the next 12 months. The one that has probably given the opportunity for this, for David Fifita to possibly go to the Panthers is James Fisher-Harris, because they knew that they couldn't keep the other players. Whereas James Fisher-Harris has just come out of the spur of the moment. They didn't really see this coming. They didn't plan for this. Therefore, they've got some money in the salary cap. Those other players had to leave because of the salary cap restraints. So that's how I see this possible, because you might think, well, they won the last 3 premierships. How can they sign a player like David Fifita? But I think it's all due to the money that has been saved from James Fisher-Harris moving on. Look, to be honest, I think the Panthers would actually be better for David Fifita than David Fifita would be for the Panthers. The Panthers they're a great side, and you think about their back rowers at the moment. Liam Martin, he's one. Luke Garner plays a little bit on the edge as well. But David Fifita would certainly benefit from being at a club and a team that has high standards and demand a work ethic. I think he could play his best football there. So I don't know whether it's true. I don't even know whether David's considering it. He's got a clause in his contract that, if he wants to stay at the Titans, he's got to let them know by Thursday this week. But if he doesn't let them know, he's off contract and he can negotiate with other clubs.
Watch this space. Just on the Panthers, I've heard some people question whether they can make it 4 in a row this year. And I know we've still got a long way to go in the premiership. But given what you've seen from the Mountain Men, the reigning premiers, so far in the competition, Billy, are they at that same standard we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, I'd say yes. And they can absolutely make it 4 if things go their way and they play their best football at the right time of the year. Look, it's hard. It is so hard to win a premiership, and to win 3 is incredible. They have done an incredible job, and to rejuvenate there and plug their holes where stars have left, that is probably the most impressive thing that the Panthers have been able to do. Someone will leave and then another player will just jump in, and all of a sudden they're stars. Look at Sunia Taruva. He's in his 2nd year of first grade, and he was the Rookie of the Year last year off the back of players leaving. They can absolutely do it again if they all play to their standard, and you've got to have a few things go your way towards the back end of the year.
Gee, we've got millions and millions of dollars worth of talent on the sideline at the moment, Bill, through injury. The latest players added to that list, Adam Reynolds. We were calling the footy on Friday night on the radio. His mum and dad were listening and desperate to try and get some information. And then when that news came through that he's torn his bicep, it was just devastating for all involved. And then Ryan Pappenhausen, who's had his fair share of injuries over the years, he suffered a fractured ankle, so he's going to be out for between 4 and 6 weeks. Couple of more big names to add to that casualty ward at the moment.
Yeah, Kurt Capewell went down with a calf injury as well. So, look, just on those two guys, they play key positions for their teams, and they're so important for the dynamic of how they play, especially Adam Reynolds. He is just, I don't know, the game suits our smart ball players and the game managers. And you see Adam Reynolds, the difference that he makes when he comes into that Broncos team. Look, I see it as a huge opportunity for the Broncos. That they can really push some development with some of their young stars. I think Ezra Mam has a great opportunity over the next 3 months to really develop himself into a bit of a game manager, grow his kicking game, short and long, and there's going to be a spot there for someone else, whether it's Jock Madden or Tristan Saylor to fill that other halves position. I think it's a real opportunity for the Broncos to grow as a footy team. And then in 3 months' time, which will be a month before the finals, you get your star halfback back in Adam Reynolds. And then everyone else is a better player because they've developed over that period that he's been out. It's a real opportunity for them to launch into the finals nice and healthy, fully fit, and everyone's a better player than where they were 3 months ago.
Didn't, just on the topic of the Storm with Ryan Pappenhausen, didn't young Fa'alogo announce himself to the competition on the weekend? He's going to be some sort of player, Billy.
Yeah, well, he announced himself last year, didn't he? When he made his debut up there at Suncorp Stadium, scored an incredible try, and he did that again on the weekend. He was playing on the wing, and then he actually picked up a knee injury also, so he's in some doubt moving forward, which puts the Melbourne Storm in a bit of a spot. Whether they move Nick Meaney back to fullback and fill that centre spot, but obviously they'll be waiting on the fitness of Sua Fa'alogo. He is a ready star, and he's bided his time. He signed 5 years at the Melbourne Storm, which is an incredible thing. You think of a player like Sua Fa'alogo, which traditionally you'd think that they would be looking for a fullback spot in another team. He said, "This is my club," and he's willing to play anywhere. He's played on the wing on the weekend, and hopefully he gets back from that knee injury and he can fill the shoes of Ryan Pappenhausen while he's out.
Well, let's get into the controversy over the weekend with the bunker. The thing I'd say to people that keep saying, "I'll get rid of the bunker," it ain't going anywhere. They've spent a hell of a lot of money. You look at sports around the world, modern technology is here to stay. Just a general question first up, Billy. Are you happy with the way in which we use the bunker, the way in which we adjudicate on the rules at the moment? Do you understand the frustration from the weekend, or do we need to defend the referees off the back of their performances from the weekend just gone?
Well, I'll say this. If you get rid of the bunker, I'll give it 7 days and you'll be pleading for the bunker to come back. It is, it catches a few little things. Like what sort of things are we talking about? Can we go through the discretions of the bunker and where the confusion is?
I think the main one at the moment is the put down for the try, the losing, the gripping the ball and all that sort of thing. Are you happy with the rule at the moment? Because I've heard some people say we've got to revisit this come the end of the year.
No, I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with it. I thought they got the Api Coruscant decision right last week. That's the rules. Don't change the bunker. If you want to change anything, change the interpretation of the rules. Like they're the rules. So I'm good with it. There was one incident in the Warriors game where Dallin Watini-Zelezniak was tackled in the air. I don't think that's a bunker issue. That's just an adjudication of the rules issue. I thought it was a penalty try for sure. If he doesn't do it, he scores a try. And he gave a penalty away doing it, consciously doing it. Like that was an intentional penalty. It was nearly a professional foul. So I don't know how that wasn't either 10 in the bin or a penalty try. That's the confusion. I don't think that was a bunker issue. That was just a decision issue.
But there was another one in a game on Saturday, the West Tigers Bulldogs game. Aiden Caesar He was put on report for that hip drop. They left him on the field instead of putting him in the bin. He's since facing 5 weeks on the sidelines from the match review committee. That was one that left people scratching their heads as well.
Yeah, the one thing he didn't do, he didn't twist his hip. It wasn't a good hip drop. Like, he sort of lands on the leg of the ball carrier, and I don't think it was a good one. And he's since got 4 weeks, potentially 5 if he fights it. Look, I actually don't mind the player staying on the field. Like I don't. I ask you, do you think any player goes out there? Do you think Aiden Caesar meant to hurt someone there, or was that an accident? So why penalise the game? Why hurt the game? Why hurt the teams? He's got 4 weeks on the sideline. That hurts, So I get if the player goes off injured, then that team is down a player, especially if it's a key player. They get a disadvantage. But look, I'm all for keeping the players on the field and then let the match review committee sort it out.
You know what is doing my head in? The set restarts. We called the Sharks-Dragons game yesterday. There were 11 set restarts and 14 penalties. And it's sort of, and Darryl Broman was alongside me, Piggy Riddell was down on the touchline. It became very frustrating to watch because it was so stop-start. And then, you saw the referee wave 6 again and you were thinking to yourself, well, what was that for? Is that something that's frustrating you a little? Because it certainly is the fans.
Well, it frustrates you because you're like, yeah, what was that for? And there's no time to actually look at the incident and go, come, that wasn't a penalty, or it just flows on. So,
is it an easy way out for the referees?
Well, it is, but they're trying to create the game as well. They're trying to say, come on, boys, like, you're just slowing the play the ball down. And sometimes the players don't care whether they have to tackle for 6 tackles or tackle for 8 tackles. Like, it's no big difference, So, I actually think when you blow a penalty, the game stops and you're actually put on show of why you were given a penalty away. So, sometimes the set restart just glosses over the error that you made, and you just get on with things. So yeah, I agree. There were way too many set restarts. I think for a couple, the referee should pull the game up and just say, listen, guys, any more. I just said I'm against people sitting down, but you need some sort of thing there. But again, like, you got to manage the game as well. Yeah. If they're offside when you're back to 10 and they're a metre offside, well, get back 11 or 12 metres and just make them further. Just manage the game. The fatigue will certainly take over soon.
You know what wasn't a good look on that Saturday game between the Bulldogs and the West Tigers, and we'll come to Casey Badger in just a second. David Clemmer standing over the top of Casey Badger and sort of remonstrating with the referee. I was really surprised he only got a $3,000 fine. And I wrote a column last week about the inconsistencies from the NRL when it comes to punishments. I mean, in a week where we've just had Phil Gould fined $20,000 for labelling the game stupid. Earlier this year, we had Spencer Leniu cop 8 weeks for racially vilifying an opponent. You can't have a big towering front rower standing over the top of a female official and trying to intimidate her. I thought that was a really, really bad look for the game.
Yeah, and he sat down for 10 minutes. He hurt his team. Benji Marshall said in his press conference that we need to be disciplined. We've got to show more discipline. And, there was still an opportunity to win that game at the end of the game there. There was still 7 or 8 minutes to go, he said. So, that just shows you the frustration. And at the end of the day, you can't do that. And I applaud Casey Badger for, putting him in the bin. Just say, no, I'm not going to stand for that. It's... he's got his,
On Casey Badger, Billy, look, it probably wasn't one of her better games, but the pile-on that followed that game on the weekend, I've got to say, I thought was disgraceful, especially from some of the West Tigers supporters. I called out a few of them on social media myself, including a co-host of a West Tigers fans podcast. Casey Badger has been appointed to referee on merit. This is not a tokenistic appointment, and nobody deserves to cop some of the rubbish that she copped after the game. And I actually sent a message to her husband, Gavin, just hoping that she didn't read any of it and making sure she's got the right support around her. And, I was reminded by a few people in the junior leagues that without referees, we don't have a game. And they're struggling to get a lot of referees at the moment. And I think we need to be better as a game when it comes to the criticism and vitriol that's directed towards our match officials. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And if you think you can do a better job, go and do it. Go and put your hand up to be a referee. Don't go on social media and be a coward and abuse someone. If you think you can do better than the person that you're having a go at, go and put the boots on, grab a whistle, or if you're having a go at a player, go and put the boots on and play the game. But like, you've got no right to abuse anyone anyway. But I agree. I think that the referees do a fantastic job. We need them. If we don't have referees, we don't have a game. And to sit behind a computer or a telephone and abuse someone for a mistake they've made because they're having a go, I see that as a coward act.
Couldn't agree more. Few upsets over the weekend, Bill, namely Canberra beating Manly at Brookvale. They were down 20-0 after 28 minutes, coming off the back of a 40-0 drubbing to the Sharks in the nation's capital last weekend. I reckon Ricky would have been happy with that performance.
Yeah, not to mention the injuries that they've sustained. You know, losing Jamal Fogarty is a huge loss. They already went into the season without Jack Whiten. They've had some. Jordan Rapina's been out as well. So to be down 20-0 at Brookvale have been Manly have been flying at Brookvale of late. I don't even think they've lost a game there.
I don't think so.
But they've had full houses for the last month, and to be 20-0 down with all that adversity, with injuries and whatnot, I thought it was an incredible performance, and I might just talk about them a little bit later with the team of the week. But that was some sort of performance from the Raiders. And Ricky Stewart, like I've mentioned it before, he does something right down there in Canberra. He's got a footy team on his hand. They play tough, and he spoke about it after the game. That's their DNA. That's who they are. Yeah,
absolutely. Roosters, they're starting to firm in the premiership markets. They are losing a hell of a lot of players at the end of the year. We'll come to Luke Keary later in the podcast. Given their players that they're missing, is this sort of their best chance now to win a premiership, and the way they're playing, they're starting to announce themselves as a real threat in this competition?
There's no time like the present. There's been no Spencer Leniu over the last couple of months either, so he'll come back. I think he comes back this week.
He does.
They're starting to make some noise. They're playing some good footy. Their fullback and captain, he's in absolutely everything. Lindsay Collins, they've got a really well balanced footy team. And the other guy that's come back into the team that's made a difference is Sam Walker. Really creative, looks really confident with his footy, and he's getting his defence right. He's putting his body on the line. He looks a lot stronger in contact. They're certainly a footy team. Luke Keary retiring at the end of the year, that could just be the motivation and the spark that the Roosters need this year.
Couple of teams before we move on to other things that have lost their mojo, probably the best way to put it. The Warriors, they've sort of gone off the boil a bit, and the Cowboys run down by the Dolphins on the weekend. What's going on there, Bill?
It's interesting because both of these teams want to be defensive mindset teams, but their main strength is their attack. Like I see the game in a cycle, and when you're attacking well, you're defending well. And it all flows on from that. So they're dropping a little bit too much ball at the moment, both teams, and they just haven't got their attack right, and therefore their defense is put under a lot more pressure, and they just don't have that resolve in their defense at the moment. They haven't got the defense of the Panthers or the Melbourne Storm or those good defensive teams. I don't know. Like, I'm sure they're focusing on their defense because they're leaking way too many points. But sometimes you take your focus off that and you put it on your attack, which is your strength. And then all of a sudden your defense is energized from that. So, they're in a bit of a hole, both of those at the moment. Cowboys have lost 4 straight, and I think the Warriors 3 straight, have they?
Yeah, 3 in a row.
Yeah, so
not good.
It's not good signs for them.
No. Look, I know you've got your Billy M Awards coming up. Can I dish out my own award today? Pest of the Week?
Absolutely.
Pest of the Week's got to be Breed Mahoney. He has become a pest, hasn't he? Little Reed, I'll tell you what would have happened back in the old days. He would have caught one on the chin.
Andrew Johns, spoke pretty vividly on the Sunday Footy Show yesterday. Look, at the end of the day, it's sort of crept into his game a little bit. You know what? Doesn't need that. He is a wonderful player. He's a great little competitor. He's a crafty little number 9, great defender. Yeah, I agree. He doesn't need that sort of stuff in his game, and it's starting to grab the headlines around him as a player, which you don't want that. So I'm sure he'll tidy that sort of things up.
Bloody Queenslanders. By the way, you started to write a few names down on paper. We're not too far away from game 1.
Yeah, it's starting to get close, isn't it?
No names?
30-odd days. So not far away, but we've still got 3 games to go before we sit down and build the team. But, the players, whether it's through injury and form, and, we'll end up with 17 players that have really earned their opportunity to play for Queensland this year. And I'm enjoying watching them all. So, yeah, still a little bit of time to go just yet.
So enjoy the fun, Billy, at the moment. You're going to get very serious over the coming weeks, aren't you?
Nah, I'm always fun. Always fun.
He's always fun. A great man. Well, let's get into the Billy M Awards for round 9 of the competition, Billy, and we start off with the most impressive team from round number 9.
Well, we just spoke about them before. The Canberra Raiders, for me, were the most impressive team this week. 20-0 down at Brookvale, away from home, up against a serious team like Tom Trbojevic, Daly Cherry Evans. And to come back and win that game 26-24, I thought it was an incredible performance. Some of their senior players really stood up, and young Kyo Weeks, he scored a try against his old team in the first half to get them back into the match. And yeah, I just thought that performance from Ricky Stewart and his men was the performance of the week.
What about the most impressive player from round number 9?
Come from the same game, from the same team, and it was Elliot Whitehead. He's been out of the team for a little bit. I think he's been injured, has he? So to come back in and play the way that he did, scored 2 tries and set up that try for Kyo Weeks. Took the intercept where Manly looked like they were going to run down the opposite end of the field and lead 26-0. But took the intercept and a little Benji Marshall flick pass. And, yeah, like I said, then he picked up a couple of tries off the back of that. And, yeah, he was the performer of the week.
Great stuff. All right, we move to our list of questions. There's been another stack of them. Billy's mailbag is full, but keep them coming. Billy Slater Podcast at 9.com.au. We might start off with this one from Jamie. Billy, what do you make of Luke Keary's career? Is it true you said that his 2018 grand final kicking game was one of the toughest to be on the end of?
Yeah, he was great that day. He really took control. His team were really dominant. They played us in our own end the whole game, and I just remember every kick. I thought I was going to put my back leg in the in goal and get a 7 tackle set, but it was just not far enough. That's how perfect his kicking game was, and we were bringing the ball off our own try line, and then when we'd kick it, they'd be getting tackled on the 30, 40 metre line. Like, that was how impressive their team performance was. But then on the end of the team performance, Luke Keary's kicking game was first class. So, that was probably as good as I've seen him control a game and kick in a game, because he's noted as a runner, but obviously with Cooper Cronk, going down with that shoulder, he took control, and yeah, he was awesome that day.
It's funny, on that grand final, a lot of the talk was around Cooper because it was the mysteriousness of whether or not he was going to play. And then, he was lauded after the game for being tough and playing with that shoulder. But if Luke Keary's not there, and a few of the boys said that on the weekend on the radio, they don't win that grand final. Do you agree?
Absolutely. He did a wonderful job. And like I said, he played the role of the number 7. He was the dominant player, and his team really supported him because they completed their sets and they played really physical through the middle. They dominated the field position, and that gave him an opportunity to kick well. But then he had to kick well. Like I said, he's a great little player. He has been for such a long period of time. He's won 3 premierships, 1 at the Rabbitohs and 2 at the Roosters, and he'll be looking out looking to go out with a premiership this year, and it's a real possibility with the talent they've got in their squad and the footy that they're playing, and they'll be looking to get better as the year goes on.
I've spoken to so many players who, their big regret is having never won a premiership. To think that Luke could win a fourth, that just goes to show he's been a great player in some great teams over the years. One from Nicky. Who is one player you would have loved to have had the opportunity to play with, past or present, Billy?
Yeah, okay. I've got two. I've got two players that I would have loved to play alongside. The first one is Alfie Langer. I would have absolutely loved to play with Alfie. I just followed him around like a puppy dog and waited for him to do something, little grubber or something like that. Although he usually regathered his own kicks, so I don't know. I might have just supported him along the ride and just celebrated with him. But that would have been pretty cool, and after the game would have been fun also. The other guy I would have loved to play alongside was Andrew Johns. I was fortunate enough to play against Joey, and sometimes when you play against these great players and like Andrew Johns, you learn so much about your game. I remember playing Andrew Johns up at Newcastle, and when people used to always talk about, like, you come up against a good fullback and it's like, the battle of the fullbacks and that sort of stuff. The biggest battle that a fullback has is the opposition kicker. They teach you about your positional play and the deficiencies you have in your fullback play, and your position. And playing against Andrew Johns, he'd go down a short side and he had the ability to drive it straight down the line. He had the ability to hook it all the way across the field or just chip it over the top. And he was always thinking. So reviewing your game against an Andrew Johns or a Jonathan Thurston, you learn so much about where to be and how urgent you are and all that sort of stuff. So, it would have been nice and fun playing alongside Andrew Johns. He'd put you into some space.
And have a good party afterwards too, alongside Alfie.
That would be enjoyable, wouldn't it?
Might go for a couple of days. Keep those listener questions coming. Billy Slater Podcast at 9.com.au. And before we wrap up, Billy, looking ahead to round 10, Dolphins, Sea Eagles, Panthers, Bulldogs, Eels, Broncos, the game on Friday night. Gee, I'm looking forward to the Storm and the Sharks, top of the table clash.
Oh, yeah. Eels, what was that one? The Storm and the Sharks. That'll be a beauty. I'm looking forward to the Eels and the Broncos. The Broncos, no Reynolds, what they do there, that Friday night clash is going to be big. And the Eels coming off a bye. No
Gutherson.
No Gutherson, and they're under a bit of pressure. There's already been a bit of talk about their coach's future and that sort of stuff. So they've had to freshen up, and they'll be nice and prepared for this game because they've had 2 weeks to prepare for it. So I'm looking forward to that Friday night clash.
Great stuff. All right, mate, you have a great week. We'll see you on the telly over the course of the weekend, and we should get the plug in. We're a couple of weeks away from Magic Round, which I think's become one of the great weekends in rugby league. 4-day celebration of rugby league at Suncorp is going to be a beauty.
Oh, it always is. And it's actually starting on the Thursday night with the Women's State of Origin on that Thursday night, the 16th of May. So that is going to be one to look forward to, and that'll kick off Magic Round up there in sunny Queensland. So
I haven't had a drink since Las Vegas. I've been saving myself for Magic Round.
Be a nice Forex cold one up there for you, mate.
Absolutely. I'll have anything. I'm not like Joey. I don't pick and choose. Have a good week, mate. We'll catch you soon.
Thanks, Levy.
There he is, Billy Slater. This has been the Billy Slater Podcast. Enjoy your weekend of rugby league as we enter round number 10.
This year, NRL on 9 is your one-stop shop for all footy.
That's right, Freddie. Not about the highlights, action, 7 days a week.
Billy and Gus Podcast, get that on your drive on the way home. Immortal Behaviour, grab a seat on the couch for that. And of course, my favourite, Freddie in the 8.
The best footy brains, the biggest games.
Don't trust the algorithm, subscribe to NRL on 9 and get all your entertainment there.